What is going on, YouTubeverse? John Stanek from Johnny Radio here, bringing you another album of the month, this time for September 2022, and I could not be more excited than to be talking to you about Keith Jarrett and the BORDEAUX Concert, which was recorded back in 2016 when he was touring through France, and sadly is one of the last concerts that he ever performed, as he did have a stroke a few years later and has not performed live since, and sadly probably won't be able to. But what a gift this is to have the brilliance of Keith Jarrett. If you're not aware of him as a musician, he is a jazz pianist who has performed in trios as well as on his own, most known for on his own. The BORDEAUX Concert back in 1975 was the pinnacle of his success as far as just playing these one-man improvisational solo shows, and just the fact that he's making up the music as he goes, just incredible. Definitely check out the BORDEAUX Concert if you haven't, by the way. It is just amazing. And I've done a review on that on my channel. You should check that out as well. But does this live up to the BORDEAUX Concert standards? You know, there are moments of brilliance where it definitely does. And a lot of people are comparing this BORDEAUX Concert to that. I feel like it doesn't quite reach that level throughout, especially part one. It just feels like he's kind of warming up, doing these runs that are just kind of all over the place. But by the time you hit part three, especially, it's just magnificent. That was actually released as a single leading up to this album. I did a review of that track, which you can check out in more detail, but it kind of distills into just a 3.5-minute piece all the best parts of this record. And it does go to some amazing places after that, especially part 7 is my personal favorite. It's like otherworldly, these melodies that he's coming up with. And you can hear also by part 4, I think is when he starts making those noises that he's known for making, which I heard recently. It's not just that he's ecstatic about playing the ecstasy sounds that he makes. It's also like when he can't quite get the sound out of what he's playing in his head, and he's compensating for that. And I'm kind of paraphrasing in an interview that he once said something along those lines, and that just it's very interesting to me that he's kind of making these sounds when he can't quite get to what he wants the piano to sound like, which blows my mind because he makes the piano sound like no one else, honestly. But again, part 7 of this, if you just want to focus on one part, 3, as I said, was great as well, but part 7 is just like, I think, the best part of this whole 13-part album. And it's almost like after that, he himself realized it, because on part 8, he goes into this kind of bluesy vamp, almost like he's rewarding himself for how good part 7 was. I may just be reading more into that, but part 8, it's kind of like he just lets loose and does this whole blues thing, which is very cool as well. I love when he does those kind of vamps. But then, part 9 is great. Part 11, I believe, was also released prior to this album coming out, and that one has a very cool melody as well, very classical. Part 7, I feel like, is classical as well. It almost takes all the best elements that I love about Keith Jarrett's playing and puts it into one spot. But yeah, there's not a weak track on here. It's great throughout, but those are the real highlights, I think, that reach that kind of BORDEAUX Concert level of you're like, oh yes, this is just magnificent and transporting me to another place. So yeah, it's great. It's the only other quibble I have about this album is, unlike the BORDEAUX Concert and some of his other live recordings, they opted to take out all the clapping after the different parts, which I'm sure there was, even though Keith Jarrett likes it to be quiet when he plays, after he gives long enough of a pause, people of course give it up for him. So I found that a little weird, because I love personally on my live recordings, I think some of the greatest of all time, like Band of Gypsies here, or you know, Peter Frampton Comes Alive. That audience interaction is sometimes a great thing, and you know, I can see why they left it out, just to leave it just Keith and just very plaintive, but I don't know, that was just my thing. So for me, I'm giving this right now a strong 7.5 out of 10. Definitely highly recommend it, and yeah, album of the month. So what can you say? So let me know in the comments below what you think of this. If you've heard it, what are your favorites? If I had to pick my two favorite tracks, it would definitely be part 7 and part 3, I think. But whole thing is great and has to be listened to as one piece. But also, if you haven't heard this, please go check it out. It is fantastic. And as I said, check out some of his other work, because just a living genius of the piano and yeah, and jazz in general. So thank you guys so much for watching. We have album reviews, top 5s every Friday, so much more. Thank you, and as always, Viva la vinyl. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and be sure to ring the bell for notifications so you can always see great quality content like you're seeing on the screen right now. Thank you so much for supporting Johnny Radio, and I'll see you soon.